back. This is going to be a special political show, of course. We're getting into the politics of things. And of course, we're going to be looking at President Trump and the golden age of America. Because while I think there's going to be short term pain, I think there's going to be massive, massive gain moving forward. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get into, obviously, the golden age of America coming up with Trump. And we're also going to be looking at his 50 wins in 50 days. It has been 50 days, can you believe it, since he's taken over. And boy, has he stirred up a storm. He is reordering the liberal world order and moving it back to common sense. So he's stopping the madness by creating a little bit of madness, but getting us back on the right track, because he's got a lot of problems to solve, not only for America, but for the world. And we're looking forward to it. Now, the other thing, of course, we're going to get into is approval ratings as well. So look forward to that. We're going to have another approval ratings for Trump at the moment. We're also going to look at the US economy and the budget. There's a continuing resolution coming up for Tuesday vote, which is probably tomorrow sometime. And then we're also going to be looking at the massive amount of investments that Trump's been pulling into America in every single major high-tech and manufacturing category, including energy as well, which is going to really help us stir the golden age into reality. So this is really, really huge. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. If you haven't subscribed, definitely smash the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you like politics, you like crypto, you like economics, you like things like that, share the channel around. I really encourage you to do that. Now, I've just updated the links in the video description. If you want to join our Discord today, join up as a community member and become a vibrant part. You are a very special person, and you can add a lot to our community. So we do encourage you to join up. The link's in the video description. It's only $12.50 a month to join up, and join today as a community member. And if you want to join our strategy club, that's $35 a month. So join up to that today as well. And of course, I'll catch you in the Discord. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. And let's talk about some of these things that are going on. So let's have a look here. So the golden age of America is here, and we're going to check this out. This is from the White House itself. This morning, President Donald Trump and his administration were on the airwaves in force as they explain how in just 7 weeks the golden age of America is here, and they are laying the foundations for that, right? They have massive, massive problems to fix up for America to get this golden age. So they've been working on that big time. So President Trump said on Sunday morning's Future regarding pausing tariffs on certain imports, I wanted to help America car makers until April the 2nd. And of course, it becomes all reciprocal, he says. I don't know why they doubled that up, but anyway, it becomes all reciprocal. So the tariffs, that means that high tariff areas in the world. So this is actually a trading imbalance where America's being treated unfairly. In fact, not only is it going to help America, but potentially it helps a lot of other countries in the world facing high tariff countries as well. We're talking about the EU and in parts of Asia and places like that, that they're going to make reciprocal tariffs. So if you want to sell, you're going to have to bring the tariffs down. So you can either raise your tariffs in a tariff war, or you can lower them and become friendly. And that's the way it's going to be. So this is actually pretty much helping free trade in many ways. So it's going to be interesting to see that outcome, right? It's going to be interesting to see that outcome for sure. Now, just before we move on with that, I think we got a comment in the chat there from our community leader. Good to see you, Brian. And he says, Discord is great. We have lots of fun in there, like-minded folks. Yeah, definitely join up today to our Discord. Links in the video description. Only $12.50 a month. Fantastic value. All right, so get on that. Now, obviously, another point that he made in 50 points on Democrats' disgusting behavior during his joint address. Obviously, that was pretty dramatic. Of course, we saw Al there making a stir there, and he got censured as well, didn't he? There's something wrong with them. I can't believe it. They were talking about men playing in women's sports. Republicans are going wild, and the Democrats are having their little sign-ups, their little signs, their little tiny signs. And of course, it's unbelievable. They just don't get it. Absolutely. Now, on resurrecting American shipbuilding, this has been one of the major things coming out of Trump. And of course, you know that China is massive shipping manufacturing now, both civilian and military. And many of you may not know, but many of the civilian ships have to get rated as military ships so they can carry tanks and things like that. And so what that does is that if they do ever get into the war, and remember, I don't think China's really been in a war since 1969, something like that. So they've generally been peaceful, despite them doing certainly some bad things in the past. They actually have been doing big shipbuilding, right? Many of you may know that they've got their third aircraft carrier. I think it's currently still in testing. And then they've got their fourth aircraft carrier being built, which will probably be their first nuclear aircraft carrier, as we understand. So they're getting bigger and bigger. And of course, what do they want to do that? They're obviously challenging the United States, right? It's not really just about their own defense because there's no one else out there to deal with them, right? So really, it's about becoming number one. We know that they've got that in their big long plans, right? So that is where they are at the moment. And so Trump is really dealing with that issue. He's building up the manufacturing and getting America shipbuilding back on track. And so America has about 5 to 7 different military shipbuilding sites, about 3 or 4 main companies, and a lot of subsidiary companies supporting that. Making aircraft carriers, destroyers, frigates, submarines, things like that. And of course, Trump is going to ramp all that up. So we could see a massive explosion. And this is all high paying jobs as well. So it's really a big deal there. I am so excited to see this aspect as well on resurrecting American shipbuilding. He says what we're doing is rebuilding we're building a tremendous foundation for the future. You just saw one of the biggest shipbuilders in the world in the Oval Office. He's announced a $20 billion investment in the United States, which is really, really, really huge. On the Ukrainian President Zelensky, obviously after the drama at the White House, he says he took he took money out of this country under Biden. Of course, they were giving him up to 350 billion US dollars. I mean, that's a lot of money. Remember, the federal budget's about 7.7 billion. The US economy GDP is about 28.7 trillion, and so that's a huge amount of money. 350 billion. Imagine that going back to the Americans yourselves. If you're an American, that's your taxpayer money there. Because he took out money out of the country under Biden like candy from a baby. I just don't think he's grateful. And the worst thing about that, apparently, there's about $100 billion missing. And somehow Zelensky's become a billionaire. So you work out the numbers there. On Russia, nobody has been tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. The biggest job they've ever done was the pipeline Nord Stream 2. And if you guys remember, under Trump's first term, 45, he blocked Putin in Russia with the Nord Stream. And then what happened when Biden got in? He opened it up straight away, allowing Russia to get that Nord Stream. So just crazy contradictions, right? Trump was doing the right thing. The Biden and the Democrats doing the wrong thing. And of course, he says the biggest job I've ever done was the pipeline, and they're going to supply Germany and everybody else all over Europe. And what did I do? I stopped it, of course. Then Biden came in and started again. What else happened? Of course, the Germans and everyone else buying all the oil and gas from Russia. Way more revenue did they give Russia than they gave supporting Ukraine, which in total Europe budget was about 100 billion or so. It's crazy stuff, right? These Europeans are just crazy stuff. And of course, we all know the European leadership's heading towards authoritarianism. They already are authoritarians. They turn on their own people, and now they're wanting to make a European army. And of course, they still don't want to spend the money because the economies are in the tank, and they still need America and NATO, right? So there's still a lot of problems there. On the Panama Canal, the Carter administration gave the Panama Canal away for $1, of course. And of course, there was something like 35,000 approximately people that died from America making that canal. So there was blood made that canal, and then they give it away for $1 under Carter. And of course, now Trump is wanting to take it back. So that's his quote there. We're taking the Panama Canal back there. And of course, if you may not know, a lot of people didn't know that China was actually slowly taking over the canals anyway. Something like 70% of the signage now. A lot of the areas that's around that canal are now Chinese, and of course they were looking to dominate that. So last thing America needs is the Panama Canal to fall to Russian Chinese control. And if you didn't think that was very real, you can also see currently at the moment China's out in the Cook Islands and other places making deals about ports and all sorts of stuff. Basically money for position. It is pretty crazy stuff going on there at the moment. Now, on protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, obviously two huge parts of the. I don't know why they've duplicated this stuff here. They've got two big things. Medicaid and Social Security are part of the U.S. budget, right? Massive, massive parts there. Let's go check how much they actually are. So at the moment, Medicare is $1.7 trillion, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security $1.5 trillion. That gives you an idea of how big those are. Huge. Right. And Trump's consistently said they're not really going to touch that. However, they are going to cut out the fraud out of those, and the fraud is very rampant. So that's being done through Dodge. So that's huge there. Now, the Democrats keep saying, complaining, you're cutting Medicare and such. No, they're not. And of course, that is just a lie that Democrats use to try and get to the emotional side of their voters, and that's just manipulation as usual. Says, I'm not going to touch Social Security, says Trump, Medicare or Medicaid. Now we're going to get fraud out of there, though. Everyone wants to get out the fraud, and therefore you'll make it better. And that's what they're really doing. So very, very cool. They're finding people that are old. They're finding people that are kids getting loans. I mean, it's pretty crazy what's happening with Dodge. Now, on Dodge, what Elon Musk has done is unbelievable. He has found hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fake contracts. And as we know, that's actually now up to 186.5 billion US dollars on the Dodge clock there. That's a savings of almost $1,700 per taxpayer. And Elon Musk says that's just the beginning. What we're expecting, and Elon Musk has indicated that we could get over $1 trillion savings here, and that would be massive. Massive. Why? Because the US budget is in a $2 trillion deficit. So if you can get $1 trillion savings of $2 trillion, you are saving half of that, and therefore you'll get down to $1 trillion. And then you can look at other ways of reducing that deficit, and that could be including increased income from growing your economy. And that's another thing, right? So at the moment, maybe the US economy is growing about 1.8%. And of course, Trump could get it to the golden age of 3% or more. And then suddenly you're earning, something like $4 trillion more. It could be massive, right? So huge stuff happening there. You can see the big picture coming together. On education, we want to bring schools back to the States because we have the worst education department and education in the world. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, and we're number one when it comes to cost per pupil. So a huge thing around education in the United States. And it may not be that obvious, but if you went to a high performing country with students, you might find that someone of the same age is well below a student in another country, maybe Japan, for example, etc. The US is really struggling on the rankings there, and that's just because of the decline. A big part of that is to do with the ideological capture with the Marxists, and of course, the woke education taking over, right, trying to indoctrinate kids, confuse kids with their terrible ideologies, instead of educating around maths and English and science and things like that. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, and yet we're number one when it comes to cost per pupil. Isn't that embarrassing? So Trump's trying to deal with that, get rid of the ideology, get kids back into learning properly. And of course, smarter kids will mean a better future for them on average. And that's really, really positive. So very, very, very cool. Now, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was on Face of the Nation. She was dealing with illegal border crossing, reaching record lows. And this has been a huge hit straight out within 7 weeks, going to be 50 days. This isn't Joe Biden's world anymore. This is President Donald Trump's country, and we have a border, we have laws, and it applies equally to everybody. Now, one of the big things, of course, they're continuing to finish off the wall, but what they really did to close down the numbers was send, Homeland Security, organize all the departments, and the Department of Defense was a big move down there as well, and border control. So lots of alliances there, and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I imagine within another month or so, they'll have a massive command and control if they don't already have that. Really well developed, coordinating all the different units. So it's going to be pretty incredible there. On deporting criminal illegal immigrants, we have 700 gang members that have been deported out of the country in just a month. On Biden's failure to secure the border, President Biden didn't follow the law. He didn't follow the law. In fact, it's always been equally applied until his administration. And of course, Obama was biggest on this. Many of you may not know. Obama deported something like 12 million, I think it was, illegal immigrants into the United States. So just the irony of it, just the hypocriticalness of the Democrats, right? So there we go. And of course, this time they wanted to flood them in, changing their positions because they wanted to get voters, right? Get voters and destabilize the United States, all part of their wacky globalist Marxist ideology. And of course, to get at Trump as well. The derangement syndrome is real. And of course, then he made decisions to ignore federal law and how he handled immigration enforcement within the borders. And because there's so many corrupt judges, they let him go with a lot of those things, right? On holding Mexico and Canada accountable for fentanyl. In the past, promises have been made by both Mexico and Canada, and they didn't follow through on. Every day in this country, people are dying of overdoses. Now, we know in Mexico, of course, it's obvious. There's the cartels that dominate. They act like a second government in Mexico, getting drugs through. And, of course, they're doing human trafficking, every single kind of horrible crime you could imagine. And they pretty much have the worst gangs in the world, right? On Canada, of course, Canada says they're doing well. They've only got like 1% of the crossings, but of course, Canada supports giving drugs out to people in the streets. And of course, they have specialized places where people can go get drugs. Rather than help people get off drugs, they feed them drugs and they kill them. And that's pretty much what happens there. They keep them addicted and stupid, and their lives never get better. So that means that they're probably not as tough on drugs either. Every day in this country, people are dying of overdoses. And we know the numbers are huge. There's something like minimum somewhere between 100 and 300,000 is the number. I think So it's just absolute huge. It's a massacre every year, absolute massacre. And it's just terrible to see people on the streets with needles hanging out and all sorts of stuff. It is horrific stuff. And of course, homelessness in America is a big issue, one that I hope that Trump will look to deal with, not just indirectly through making the golden age of America, but through actual targeted programs. And of course, a big problem with that is the challenges in Democrat states, which basically create hellholes, right? Dystopian hellholes, where they love homelessness people, they love people drugged up on the streets, they love crime. I don't know, they're just mad, 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 mad. Anyway, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett on this week, he said on the February jobs report, in just 1 month alone, after losing 110,000 manufacturing jobs, we made 10,000 in February alone. 9,000 were auto jobs. So obviously, manufacturing is going to be a huge, big deal in America. And of course, Trump wants to ramp that up. And so that's pretty exciting there too. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick on Meet the Press on tariffs. We're unleashing America out to the world, grow our economy in a way we've never grown before. You are going to see over the next 2 years the greatest set of growth coming from America. And we're going to look at some of that because that's going to be huge moving forward. So let's talk a little bit about that later. But I think that's a really big bit there. Now, the final comment here on the Golden Age of America update from the White House was Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Fox and Friends said on government funding, the continuing resolution freezes spending while allowing the government to continue to function, allowing ICE agents and Border Patrol to continue their mass deportation effort, allows President Trump cabinet to continue to identify waste, fraud, and abuse across the federal bureaucracy. So the president supports the CR. So the CR is a continuing resolution, and that will mean that we'll just keep going, the budget keep going until the 30th of September without having to do a formal budget. So this gives Trump a bit of room there. And we're hopeful and expect the Republicans to get on board so we can pass it and continue moving forward to implement President Trump's agenda, which is pretty exciting. So that there was the big update there around the golden age of America. Pretty exciting there, I'm sure. Now, let's see if we've got any more comments in the chat there. We've got a few people jumped in here before we get into the next section, which is 50 wins in 50 days as Trump is moving forward here. Let's see what we got. A couple of comments. We've got Matt in the house. How good to see you, Matt. How do you suit, man and all? Good to see you. And we've got MVS in the house as well. Good to see you, MVS. Check Vox Finance. Hey, good one there. And avoid World War III, says MVS. How about that? Yeah, Vox has been doing pretty well the last 2.5 days or so. Check it out on Dick Screener, I guess. All right, so not too bad. Let's get into the next section, which is 50 wins in 50 days. And of course, this has been pretty exciting. 50 wins in 50 days. President Trump delivers for Americans. So this is the short-term roadmap for this rolling out this golden age of America. And of course, this is March the 10th. So it's hot off the press pretty much. Today, President Donald Trump marks 50 days in office, and he has already established himself as the most consequential president of our time. The winning never stops, and President Trump is just getting started. So it's going to be pretty crazy. Remember, you got to always keep in the context that the problems that were created by Biden and previous administrations are big, they're huge, and they need to be solved. Presidents for decades and decades promised to deal with costs. They promised to make things efficient and effective. They promised to make sure that the state was running in favor of the Constitution and the will of the people. But of course, they had been against that. We developed a deep state, lots of problems here. So corruption, deep state, everything. And of course, Trump is finally, we got a president that's coming along to clean it all up. And of course, he's got Elon Musk there, probably the greatest technologist an entrepreneur of our age. So it's very exciting what we're seeing at the moment. Really unprecedented. So pretty awesome there. 50 wins there. President Trump secured the border in unprecedented fashion, of course. It is down pretty much 96% with illegal crossings. So pretty amazing as well. If Fox were to send me down there right now, I'd have trouble to find a single migrant. This is what Bill Mulligan said on Fox correspondent. It is huge. CBS immigrant reporter Camalio Galvez there said typically when we go down to the Mexico border, we at least see one group of people who are trying to cross into the US illegally. We do not see a single migrant. So that's how much they've cut it down. So between 99%, pretty amazing stuff within 7 weeks. President Trump signed the Lake and Riley Act into law, which was pretty awesome. The law requires illegal immigrants arrested or charged with theft or violence to be detained, honoring the memory of Lake Riley, a Georgia college student who was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant released in the country. And this is something that I'm not even in America. And I used to see this stuff in America where illegal immigrants would come in and kill and rape and steal and the Democrats would just do nothing and applaud them. In fact, and get them out of prison. It was just absurd. I just felt this is so bad. And when it's not beyond bad policy, right? Bad policy is bad policy. Say, oh well, you tried that and didn't work out. But this is actually evil stuff, right? This is actually intentionally getting people maimed, killed, and everything else. And that's the policy position of the Democrat Party. It's just absurd. It's just absurd and moronic. So it's great to see the Lake and Riley come into law, and maybe more Americans won't be dying senselessly and getting attacked and everything else. President Trump is deporting illegal immigrant killers, rapists, and drug dealers en masse. And this is a wonderful thing, right? America doesn't need these people in the suburbs. They don't need them haunting around. You don't need to go downtown and have these people walking past you, So it's fantastic to see that happen there. I mean, we're talking about killers, child molesters, pornographers, gang members, terrorists, and drug traffickers. It is fantastic news there. Because once the gangs too take over, once they take over your society, you're in big trouble, and Mexico knows that. It's been a big problem there. And of course, they'd make deep inroads under the Biden administration in the US, probably blackmailing politicians, councillors, and everyone else you can imagine. So you got to now root them out of the society so you can clean it up. President Trump tariffs are leveling the playing field for American workers. He's put tariffs in there. Now, obviously, liberals don't like tariffs just because tariffs get passed on to consumers. But what he's actually doing is creating a bit of a wall. And if you want to come and sell in and avoid the tariff, you need to build your manufacturing. So we're looking forward to see that. Obviously, he's doing a lot of investments around that, and we're going to talk about that a bit later. So this is a move praised by the Steel Manufacturers Association, aluminium, of course, which big tariffs have gone up there. And of course, President Trump unveiled a fair and reciprocal trade agreement. And this is actually going to fix up a lot of the imbalances in the world trade that liberals so-called celebrate, because they've got these big barriers up there and they just pretend they're not there. I mean, these people are lunatics, and we've had enough of it. Go down to 3 decades we've had to deal with liberals and now progressives who are even 10 times more radical. And so it's great to see common sense coming back into play. And it's going to be a bit rough for the short while. Of course, it's an adjustment period, and negotiations are going on between Canada and Mexico and places like that. So some of those will pan out where the tariffs are dealt away with and trade barriers are removed, right? So there's tariff barriers and non-trade tariff barriers. Those will all be removed. So Trump is making actually the world trade even better. But it's a tough love. It's tough love on the way there. Now, President Trump has taken on fentanyl, of course. We talked about 100 to 300,000 people dying a year from that. I mean, it's just absurd. And of course, he's implemented additional 10% tariffs on China for that, where a lot of it is produced. And of course, just one jar of fentanyl will kill like a city of people off. It really is that bad. So very important there. And apparently, I think the federal crime is 10 years if you're found with it, which seems absurd. It's basically like a mass murder. It's almost like a nuclear bomb casualties. So pretty crazy there. And of course, Trump is forcing Mexico and Canada to address fentanyl as well. So really looking out for the lives of Americans. Pretty fantastic. Trump has also secured billions of dollars of new investment in US-based investments, which is exciting. And here's just a couple of teasers here. Apple announced a historic $500 billion investment, which will create 20,000 new base jobs. TSMC announced an unprecedented $100 billion invest in semiconductors. So we've got pretty amazing stuff happening in AI and, of course, in semiconductor manufacturing. President Trump announced the largest artificial intelligence infrastructure project in history. This is huge because this is really one of the biggest areas, and of course, a big area to compete with China on AI, because AI is going to have systemic ramifications through modern society. It is taking us to the next age of technology, and it's going to have a big impact on humans, especially integrated with things like robots and automation. So it's going to be a pretty crazy world we're entering in here with AI. Now, it's securing $500 billion in planned private investment, with major CEOs agreeing it would have not have been possible without Trump's leadership. President Trump secured $20 billion in investment by Damic Properties to build new US-based data centers. CGM announced $20 billion investment in new US shipbuilding and logistics to create 10,000 jobs. Now, I'm expecting to see a lot more in this space around build manufacturing here. Eli Lilly and Company announced $27 billion investment in US-based manufacturing, and this is going to explode too. So manufacturing is going to really explode under Trump there. Trump administration announced on $18 billion investment by American liquefied natural gas exporter Venture Global, and of course we've covered this before in their Plaquemines mines, their LNG port, and that's going to be huge at the down at the Gulf of America there. I think that's just off the coast. I think it's off the coast of Texas. Made possible by President Trump's energy policies. Wisconsin-based Claros, a leader in low-voltage energy storage, announced a $6 billion plan to expand US manufacturing as well. Saudi Arabia declared its intention to invest $600 billion in the United States over the next 4 years. And this is something else we've seen with the Saudis, is that Trump has got a very big relationship there. And this is where they're doing a lot of the negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, right, for peace. So Saudi Arabia getting a much bigger deal there. And, Saudi Arabia has been more moderate with the king. It seems a lot more moderate, and of course dampening down the Islamic jihadis and all the other rest of it. Despite a lot of funding still comes out of there, and of course Osama bin Laden did as well. But he himself seems to be far more moderate, and opening up Saudi Arabia and now getting to do peacemaking deals is a big sign of respect. So that bodes well. Taiwan pledged to boost its investment in the United States as well, doing massive AI and semiconductor chip building there. So pretty cool. President Trump is bringing manufacturing back to America. As I said, there's going to be huge, massive jobs, better paying jobs. And of course, this is going to be awesome for America. The US gained 10,000 manufacturing jobs Trump's first full month, led by auto sector, which is awesome. And of course, and this is a turnaround after losing an average of 9,000 manufacturing jobs per month under Biden's final year. What a turnaround. The 10,000 gain rather than 9,000 a month loss of high-paying manufacturing jobs, generally speaking. It's crazy stuff there. Stellantis there will reopen its assembly plant in Illinois, build its next generation Dodge Durango. Let me know in the chat there if you own the Dodge. Let me know that there. And of course, they're a big car, right? Americans love big cars. And of course, Trump's going to make it so that they can drive them around for relatively cheap. He's going to have a big energy boom and lower the energy costs, right? We've already seen energy abate over the last few weeks. Make new investments in Ohio and Indiana facilities. This is expected to move some production to the US. Mercedes-Benz announced plans to grow its vehicle production in the US. Honda is expected to produce its next generation Civic hybrid model in Indiana. Electronics giant Samsung and LG are considering moving their plants in Mexico to the US. That's a big deal there. And now President Trump is back in office. Siemens there announced $285 million investment in US electrical product manufacturing, create more than 900 new skilled jobs. So this is just within 50 days. So I mean, it's going to be crazy what he's going to do in the next couple of years, right? So pretty stuff there. Number 8, President Trump rescued American citizens held hostage. So really caring about people. The Democrats, they hardly ever saved anybody. A couple people, and normally it was a really bad deal. Remember, they used to give up. They used to go up mass murder, give up mass murderers for a basketball player, something like that. The mass murderer, of course, murdered hundreds of Americans and stuff like that. This crazy deals. If they ever did save one, and of course they left a lot of people rotting in cells. And President Trump has rescued them time and time again. If you're out there and you're captured, President Trump's coming to save you. It's not a political thing. It's going to happen because he's pro-American, and so you're in safe hands under President Trump. President Trump restored maximum pressure on Iran. Of course, they've done sanctioning, of course, and they've also sent a letter out, of course, to Iran. And of course, Iran sort of said, "Hey, stop bullying us." Iran's ironic. Iran, the one that's got 6 or 7 proxies around the world causing terrorism, says, "America, stop bullying us." How silly is this? These terrorists out there, pretty crazy. So pretty awesome there. President Trump designated the Iran-backed Houthis a foreign terrorist organization as well. Of course, they've been firing, at the ships in the sea there, and of course, also attacking Israel as well. Number 10, President signed an executive order to reinstate the back pay U.S. service members were discharged under the military Biden-era COVID-19. That's huge. American military is so amazing, and they've been treated so badly. Forced to do woke policies, forced to COVID vaccines. I don't know if you've seen some videos of them suddenly being forced to be needled and all that. Pretty horrific stuff. So it's good to see, and getting discharged well. Good to see them getting back pay. President Trump really looks after police, the fire people, and of course the military. Really amazing stuff. President Trump secured the arrest of international terrorists, of course, doing well on that front as well. And that was the terrorist was Mohammed Jafar, and of course he was the one responsible for 13 service members there. Were very helpful for that. So justice comes to America. You are terrorists, you attack Americans, victims will get justice. So very, very cool there. President Trump unleashed, and that was from Pakistan of all places. Can you believe it? President Trump unleashed American energy, and this is a fundamental. Energy is the first thing you got to tap in your society because you got to lower the energy costs, and this is the way to go. And of course, you get high incomes as well. It's a win-win. President Trump declared a national energy emergency to unlock America's full energy potential. He reopened 625 million acres of offshore drilling. And of course, you know the phrase "drill, baby, drill." President Trump established the National Energy Dominance Council to maximize use of American extensive, and they're going to do the first audit. They're going to audit above America's ground. They're going to audit below America's ground on federal land, and they're going to also survey the offshore, both the west and the east, and the Gulf of America. This is huge, so it's going to be pretty awesome. What's the importance of that? Well, you get an idea of the asset value of America, and then with the asset value of America, you can realize what you can tap in to make massive income, and that's going to accelerate you into the golden age of America. So you can see all this fits together. It is really, really huge. And of course, they're going to be running. They'll be running 100 miles an hour to get that all done. Number 13, President Trump ended Biden's liquefied natural gas export ban. So that's really, really cool. And of course, I think it was 2015 that America only started exporting oil too, which is pretty crazy. And of course, Trump's focused on getting oil out of the ground. And of course, we've covered that with AMWA up in Alaska, opening that up. That potentially huge, potentially as big as the oil fields in Saudi Arabia. So, which I think last time I remember something like 8 to 12% of the world supply. So that could be huge too, right? President Trump rescinded every one of Biden's job-killing, pro-China, anti-American energy regulations. So that was pretty cool. Killing the Green New Scam. That was fantastic. Withdrew from the disastrous Paris Climate Agreement. Hey, look, we're down in New Zealand. We've got silly politicians that are still doing this stuff, and we don't even produce anything of significance. In fact, we've got 85% renewable energy. It's insanity. Our people are nuts. We've got progressive leaders, globalist Marxists, and they're all nuts. They're all insane. And they're the dumbest people you could come across, and we've got no options. At least you guys have got Trump. That's good news. And of course, China, which is producing more than all the other developed countries in CO2, is getting off scot-free. In fact, not only that, they're getting paid. They're getting paid from everybody else. It's crazy stuff. That's insane, insanity. And of course, and climate change itself, of course, fake, right? So pretty crazy there. President Trump paused federal permitting, massive wind farms, etc., and so on. So pretty awesome stuff there. And of course, you guys know wind and solar are both highly intermittent energy sources. You need base load. Base load is fossil fuel. So you're talking about gas and coal. Ideally, you want to go to gas, right? Because it's way less emissions there. In fact, I think it's about a third less emissions, something like that, in the gas. So it's huge. And of course, ideally, even with gas, you want to go eventually get a lot more nuclear, because that's obviously, and you're going to have, even if you want to get your emissions down, that's just a bit more cleaner. There we go. Regardless of what actual impact there is on any climate, for example. And as you guys know, plants love CO2. Plants love it. That's what makes plants grow, and the world becomes green. So it's just the reality. And on a long cycle, we're actually very low on the CO2. So it's actually good. So that's pretty cool stuff there. President Trump ended the Biden administration's abuse of illegal immigration parole system. Number 16, President Trump is pursuing world peace. And this cannot be understated. It's going to benefit not only America, but it's going to benefit the rest of the world. It is huge. So President Trump is pursuing world peace. President Trump brought Russia and Ukraine to the negotiation table. And we know that Russia wants to be there. I think they made a few more mistakes with their intelligence when they went into Ukraine. They underestimated the Biden administration and the European leaders. And I think they got stuck there, right? I think they were trying to go in there to press a peace. And if you guys are not familiar, between December and January December 21 and January 22, they were petitioning Blinken, the foreign ministry for Biden, just to back off, stop trying to pull Ukraine into the NATO. We don't want it. We want our borders neutral. We want Ukraine to be neutral. And so that was a big catalyst there. And so, but I think they underestimated the intel on that, as well as moving up. So they ended up just getting stuck there. And of course, that was previous to 2014. And of course, if you guys know, the Americans, I think it was under the Obamas, they did pretty much a coup in the Ukraine, right? They got rid of the neutral guy that wanted to be neutral, and then they plugged in their own leaders in the Ukraine that wanted to go into NATO, pretty much. So it's all things are set up, and all from the Obamas and the Bidens, right? So pretty crazy stuff. And and so in 2014, of course, the Russians went into Ukraine, I've just forgotten the name now, but into the Donbass, not the Donbass, into the peninsula. I've forgotten the name now, into the Black Sea there. But it's pretty crazy. I don't know why it's lost my mind. But that's all stuff in the past. And of course, now they've, the Russians tried to get peace twice already, and they got turned down. And now they've got the right president who wants peace. So Trump's there for the right time. So it's going to be pretty cool. Now, former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, described the proposal as brilliant, historic, and only idea I have. So that's on the Gaza peace process. So he's pressuring Hamas and things like that. Now, it's a little bit controversial. I agree with that. With there been in discussions both before presidency with Hamas, I find that a little bit controversial. But hey, look, if they get the right outcome at the end of the day, hopefully that's going to work out. So we'll see. We'll see whether it was the right course of judgment there. President Trump secured Israel's agreement to begin negotiations to end the war, and so we'll see how that goes too. Obviously, there's also issues in the Middle East. We've got Syrians, the Syrian jihadis killing Christians and other minority religions in Syria at the moment. We've got the Egyptian army massing on the Israeli border to some degree. We've got the Turks running around like big caliphate jihadis, supporting a lot of crap in the Europe and other places. So we've got still a lot of bad actors, including Iran and Houthis running around. So there's a lot of stuff to deal with in the Middle East. So we'll see how that goes too. President Trump, number 7, signed an executive order to protect children from chemical and surgical mutilation. I cannot state how important this was. The end goal for progressives in the world is to target children. It's fantastic that President Trump's taken this order. Children need to be protected. And in fact, this is some of the things that started to trigger the movement towards populism, common sense, and Trump was the fact that the progressives had started targeting children and started to prevent parents from protecting their children by, taking them to court, the Justice Department taking people to court and things like that. So this cannot be understated how important this is. Once they get to your children, that's it, right? Because what they want to do is so much damage to them. And of course, we know they've got a lot of evil plans, and very evil plans to target children. And of course, they think they're going to be future voters that they can indoctrinate and confuse, right? You confuse them when they're young, and it's all too late by the time they get older, right? That's the whole point. So pretty awesome stuff there. Trump's done a number of things there around that. So it's pretty cool. President Trump, number 18, ended the unfair practice of forcing women to compete against men in sports. That also is another common sense thing. Although we recently saw in the Senate when they tried to make this permanent, they needed 60 votes. They only got 51 votes. That the Democrats voted against this. Why do Democrats want men inside women's toilets and girls' toilets? Is just unbelievable. There's very dark agendas going on here. It's not about protecting minorities. This is really a very dark agenda to convert the majority of society, right? They're really targeting the main majorities. And of course, they do that because once they've got you, they can control you, right? Divide and conquer and control you, right? So it's really dark stuff. Number 19, President Trump is ending waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. And of course, this has been a massive story with Dodge and Elon Musk. And that's been pretty amazing. We've seen tons of abuse in USAID, the aids there. And of course, that's been a big deal. Now, looking at how big that is, how much has been saved, $186.6 billion so far. And I do believe it's going to get over $1 trillion. It's going to be pretty crazy when we get to that number because they're going through all the departments, right? All the departments there. Brian says, dark indeed. It is dark indeed, that's for sure. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's awesome savings, man. I mean, this can go into hospitals and roads and all sorts of things, right? Saving all this money, essentially. So really is cool. So President Trump is wasting all that stuff, dealing with a lot of cool things there. And shutting down wasteful spending like the climate change. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of corruption going through the government there. And look, you wait. There's going to be a lot of drama coming out from this Dodge when you find out that a lot of Democrats and other people have been getting kickbacks and things like that. It's going to be all hell to break loose. You wait. It's coming up in the future. So the Democrats who have been out in the street saying, "Oh, don't stop USAID." Well, a lot of it's going to fraud. A lot of it's corrupt. And of course, Trump just wants USAID to go to genuine causes, right? Genuine causes there. President Trump is reforming the federal bureaucracy. Obviously, that's a big deal there, and we're looking forward to that. President Trump has ended diversity, equity, inclusion. This is another progressive ideological imposition, and this just enslaves the population, right? And it also is just ironically contradictory because it just instead of getting rid of racism and sexism and things like that, all it does is puts it embedded. It's systemic, makes it systemic in society by putting it into law. And of course, we've seen that everywhere, right? Particularly if you're white or if you're Asian, they are particularly highly hunted. If you're male as well, you're on the worst part. You're at the bottom of the list on this here. And of course, that is planned. That is planned, right? So it's been pretty bad as well. Obviously, we want to ignore this equity nonsense. We want to get back to equality, right? So equality of opportunity rather than forced equity, right, which creates provisions and oppression. Is this basically a form of apartheid and other things? It's pretty crazy. But once again, another divide and conquer strategy from the progressive left, right? So, and the globalists love it. As far as I'm concerned, the Marxists that run around, they're just useful fools for the globalists. And the globalists just laugh, go, thank you very much for doing all the groundwork for us while we sit back and drink champagne and control the world. I mean, it really is quite crazy. And they just put these kind of ideologies coming out of universities from the 70s, 60s, and they just take these and run with them, right? It's pretty crazy stuff. Now, President Trump ended the indoctrination of American students and, of course, banned COVID-19 vaccine mandates in schools. This was just the most oppressive thing. We had a lot of labor laws that prevented coercion, and what did we find? They all got overturned. In our country, we had a Bill of Rights that got suspended as well, and on very, very poor evidence, as well as a very biased judge as well. So we've got issues with judges as well. Going along with the government, we have that. We see that in the police forces, right? They were very quick. The police force, instead of following some ethical guideline, they're very quick to oppress their own people. And I found all that pretty ugly, and we see it constantly. We still see it constantly. We see that a great case of that is what we see in Canada during the lockdowns there with the truckers. We see it in the UK right now, this very day, where they're arresting all the Brits that are complaining about violent crime and overrun immigration, and so they arrest them and let all the criminals out. They'll put you in jail for a social media post, but they'll take some rapist and let him out. It's like, what the heck? So all that sort of stuff's going on there. President Trump ended the weaponization of governments against its citizens, and that's very important. We saw that from the Justice Department. They were taking on parents, Catholic churches, stuff like this, and letting all the criminals free. I mean, this is when evil has taken over and the world's become an upside down world, right? Pretty crazy. We've got Nita in the house. Hey, Nita, good to see you. Love these overviews, Suitman. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And great to have you as always, Anita. And we've got Brian says, more like Bill of Fight. Yeah, that's right. More like a Bill of Fight. Now, Trump has reversed the lawfare against American citizens. This cannot be understated. I mean, my gosh, people need to be free. The Constitution of America is the greatest thing in the world. I mean, I guess besides UK law, and UK law is being overturned, right? So pretty crazy stuff here is that these guys are trying to overturn the greatest society of all time, the Western society, and of course the Constitution, the UK law that is used around the world is just crazy. Once, because they get rid of it, they can do anything to you. They become authoritarians. They can control you, and they've got all these sneaky little divide and conquer mechanisms that they use. So it's good to see Trump reversing all of these, and really he's saving the West in this regard, right? That's why we see the liberals in Europe and in Australia and New Zealand, Canada, all up in arms. Oh, we don't want that. We're gonna fight back. And of course, you're fighting back against America, and that was a real problem. We saw also that Trump pulled out a lot of the world organizations, and that's depowered a lot of them too. And I hope that he does a lot more in that space because we can't have these global, just like the deep state, we can't have these globalists with their cunning, horrible plans, because they will enslave the world. They will kill millions for it too. Do not underestimate what they will do for this. So really is really important there. All right, so pretty crazy stuff. There's a Trump there, or the end of anti-Christian bias and federal government, ended the all censorship of Americans by federal government, etc. It's amazing stuff. Full and unconditional pardons for 23 pro-life Americans, 2 Washington, D.C. police officers who were in prison simply for doing their jobs of apprehending criminals, all free there as well. And ordered an examination of all regulations to assist any infringements on the America's Second Amendment rights. That's huge, right? So, and the right to bear arms is so important. So we don't have that in New Zealand, of course, and so we are very vulnerable to our government. In fact, our government's actively taking away guns that we might be able to get access to, and so we're pretty much screwed, right? So wish us luck with our bow and arrows. Wish us luck with our bow and arrows. All right, so number 25, President Trump is making life more affordable for everyday Americans, which is pretty awesome, and we see a lot of that stuff playing out there. A new study found President Trump's deregulation efforts since taking office have saved Americans $180 billion, $2,100 in savings for every family. Pretty amazing. Average 30-year fixed mortgage rates have fallen for 7 straight weeks, so that's a good sign too. The Trump administration postponed burdensome Biden-era efficiency standards, and those can be quite crushing, can't they? Because another way of taxing you and hurting you. Biden rules was slated to make air conditioners $1,100 more expensive. Crazy stuff, eh? I mean, America gets pretty cold in the winter. Last time I remember, and Americans love their air conditioners. That's all I know. Every time I talk to Americans, I love my air conditioner. So, and I mean, they come because we don't have air conditioning, generally speaking, in New Zealand. I mean, some of the more modern houses do, but it's not something we typically have given our weather. Maybe in the South Island, that's a separate thing. But it's like Americans come and go, "Where's your air conditioning?" To a lot of people now, unless they're and happen to be in one that has one, but it's pretty crazy. Gas water heaters, of course, Biden rules were stated to make water heaters $2,800 more expensive. I mean, this is madness. Gas stoves, Biden rules was slated to make stoves $3,250 more expensive. Clothes washers and dryers make it $200 more expensive. Light bulbs, $140 more expensive. I mean, it's just crazy stuff that they were doing to the American people. President Trump made it the official policy of this government that had there only two sexes. I mean, that's just common sense. Anytime you stray from that, I actually went to Grok 3 and I challenged it on it, and I caught Grok 3 out. And then Grok 3 admitted that there were only two. And then because he made his own definition, and then he defaulted back to his wrong definition that he started with. We looped right back around. And I thought, you cheeky little AI. So be careful with AIs. They can be liars and cheats. Liars and cheats. All right, so President Trump designated English as the official language of the United States. I think that's pretty amazing. You need a standard language that people communicate. And of course, English is also the international language, so what people use for trade. So it makes a lot of sense. And it's a very easy language, right? So I think a level 1 language. I think there's five levels. Chinese, like the highest level. And English is actually very simple to learn. And simple is good because that means people can pick it up pretty quickly as well. You don't need to, use your tongue in so many ways, whatever it is. The tones, you don't have all the tones. President Trump designated English official language. I think that's going to be very good moving forward. President Trump is ending anti-Semitism on colleges. Obviously, that's been a big deal with the universities. Universities are completely ideologically captured by the left and progressives, and you can write probably essays, and if you write a different opinion, like a conservative opinion or a moderate position, they'll probably get slammed for it, right? This is the injustice that we have in these universities, and they call themselves professors. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Too many corruptions there. President Trump cut bureaucratic red tape. That's number 29, which is fantastic. Number 30, President Trump brought back hiring based on merit, and this is kind of not be understated, right? Equal opportunity, merit-based, not DEI, not equity-based. This has to be done the right way, so that's fantastic there. You're going to get the best people flying planes and operating trains and all that. You're going to feel much safer knowing that you've got the best and brightest. President Trump brought military recruitment to the highest numbers, and this is really amazing, right? When I went to America way back in 1989, it was I remember seeing the military and after seeing Top Gun, right? And I was just like, wow, you guys are amazing, absolutely amazing. When there's seen nothing like it. In fact, half the people I saw in the Air Force and Navy stuff, they all look like Tom Cruise. They all look like Tom Cruise. It was kind of funny like that. So it is pretty cool to see America back. Military is such a big part of American culture, and America has put a lot of people on the line. Yeah, hey, look, in the past, America's gone into a lot of wars that maybe they shouldn't have gone into. But they've also been fighting communism and socialism. So there's ups and downs there. But hey, look, it's pretty crazy stuff. This is great to see that, and of course, recruitment's back online, right? So DEI is out, wokeness is out, and becoming real fighters and rearming the United States is very, very important. Important for the United States, but also important for the world peace, and also keeping China in check. Very, very cool. The US Navy is on track for the highest recruitment numbers in 2 decades. The Air Force saw its highest recruitment numbers in 15 years in December, and the Army saw the highest recruitment in 15 years also. So huge stuff there, and I think that's only going to get better and better. Imagine being in the military and you're really, really having fun there because you believe in it and you're being supported properly. You're not being told that you should be woke and get DI training. Brian says in Arizona it's a must. Yeah. So Brian's in the USA, so he knows full on there. Are you talking about AC? AC, okay. Number 32, President Trump banned UNRWA, a United States agency that employed hundreds of Hamas and jihad operatives. That thing was totally rigged. It was horrific, right? President Trump is reforming education as well, so that's really cool to see. In fact, they're trying to get it to a point where they'll get rid of the education department altogether, and that'd be great because that would get rid of the left-wing ideology. Teaching kids that they can be any gender they want when they're like 3 years old and 5 years old and 10 years old. I mean, it's just moronic. It's like we never had that at school. when I was at school. We never had any of these things. This is all just ideologically imposed to confuse and enslave and destroy kids. They destroy kids with this stuff. It's horrific. Yeah, pretty cool. So that's all stuff there. Returning back to the States, they're going to do quite a bit there as well. Number 34, President Trump resumed construction of the border wall, adding more than 400 miles of border wall built during his first term. So that's back on the run as well. President Trump, number 35, terminated the Biden-era electric vehicle mandate. And of course, that's going to be quite good too. Suspending the Biden charging program, which had resulted in just 8 charging stations despite $7.5 billion earmarked for the program. That's just insanity. Where'd the money go? Where'd the money go? That's the truth. Yeah. Number 36, Trump ended the war of cryptocurrency. Of course, we're big on cryptocurrency here at the Kryptonite Show. And of course, this is huge, right? This is huge. And I think it's still warming up. I think we're still going to see some new big things. Maybe, crypto with no taxes, something like that. Maybe some budget neutral buying. We should see where that heads there. And of course, there are other funds in the United States budget that could also be allocated into crypto that we might see a surprise in the future. So President Trump ended the war on cryptocurrency, started a strategic Bitcoin reserve, US digital asset stockpile. So those stockpiles really for altcoins, and the strategic Bitcoin reserve is for Bitcoin. And of course, that one is not going to be sold, the Bitcoin, but the digital asset will be run like a portfolio so they can add and remove altcoins to that. And of course, President Trump established the President Working Group on digital asset markets and to strengthen leadership in digital finance. So they're going to be an innovator and a pioneer and a leader. And of course, they also held their first of its kind White House Digital Summit, Asset Summit, which we covered the other day. And of course, I think most importantly, they're going to give us very clear regulations through the SEC, right? I think that's going to be huge. Number 37, President Trump established the Make America Healthy Again Commission. Of course, we've got the old Kennedy in there. And of course, that redirects the national focus to promoting health rather than simply managing disease. This is going to be huge. So we're going to get back to real science. We're going to deal with a lot of the food issues. As you guys know, unfortunately, America is pretty much the obesity capital of the world, is it? And of course, we want to get rid of that. We want people to be much more healthier in the United States. I don't think if you realize, but fast food over in the United States is so much cheaper than here. And I can see why people easily get addicted to it. So very important there. Hey, Brian there is just kicking out there, nodding out. Hey, catch you later, Brian. Appreciate it. And I know your comments down there as well. So number 38, President Trump expanded access to in vitro fertilization. That's very good for young families. President Trump established the White House Faith Office to protect Americans' religious liberties. Of course, they were under attack by Biden because Biden and the Democrats, they hate Christianity, right? They hate Christianity. So very important, that, particularly in the leadership, right? President Trump restored transparency to the government. Fantastic there, and declassified documents. Obviously, there's a lot more coming, but the Kennedy documents have been or are going to be released there. And of course, we're looking forward to a lot more coming from the Epstein files, right? Which is, it's taking its time, but we'll see if they come out, because a lot of people don't want that to come out, right? A lot of people don't want the very powerful people going to be taken down. President Trump raised standards for law enforcement and, of course, dismissed a lot of the lawsuits against police and fire departments over the use of standard aptitude tests, fitness tests, and credit checks. That's system 10, right? So instead of basing it on merit and qualifications, they're putting in this DEI nonsense and stuff like that and suing their own police and fire. It's moronic. Honestly, just absolutely crazy. President Trump is returning law and order to American cities, restored the death penalty for federal capital crimes, and of course that's going to help reduce a lot of crimes. People are going to think twice before committing a big capital crime. President Trump there called on Congress to pass a crime bill, getting tougher on repeat offenders as well, particularly around police officers, so they can do their jobs without fear as well. Number 43, President Trump reformed the federal disaster response, particularly around FEMA being revitalized and eroding environmental red tape. And of course, Trump opened up the section of interstate in North Carolina and Tennessee, which had been destroyed by the hurricane. And they did that in weeks. What took Biden wasn't even dealing with it. They were just ignoring it. And, FEMA did some work, but other than that, Biden was just ignoring it. And those trees and the trucks in the river, nothing was cleaned up. And Trump came in and all members of cabinet went down and they cleaned that thing up. Incredible stuff there, right? 3 times faster and cheaper. Doing a great job there. Number 44, President Trump cracked down on so-called sanctuary cities. Number 45, President Trump rolled back the Biden-era push to mandate paper straws, which was pretty controversial at the time, if you remember. President Trump instructed the Secretary of Treasury to stop production of the penny, and of course that cost $3.69 to make a penny, which is kind of irony there. And of course that has been saved. The Trump number 47, the Trump administration terminated approval of New York's city's burdensome congestion pricing scheme. Number 48, President Trump forced Washington, D.C. to clean up homeless encampments as he pursues policies to restore pride in America's capital city. And of course, we want to see that more happen around the whole United States, not just clean them up, but actually get the agencies to be able to get in there, give laws that they can get in and actually help these people off the streets. It is pretty crazy. And, a lot of the homelessness problem is just due to the leadership in the United States. We've got it here and good old Goldilocks zone New Zealand ourselves, just because of the leaders that we have. The homelessness is created largely by the leaders. Yes, there's a lot of domestic problems, but a lot of that stuff is really led by the leaders who don't care about these stuff and also create a lot of conditions that accelerate and amplify these things. So it really needs to be dealt with. Number 49, President Trump is ending China's chokehold over the Panama Canal. So that's huge, right? So we're looking forward to that. And it looks like BlackRock's going to go and do some investments and things like that. So we're looking for more progress there. And finally, number 50, President Trump suspended enforcement of invasive business and reporting requirements that saddled small business with unnecessary red tape. So that is very, very cool to see that. So that's going to be good for small businesses because regulations can be very costly expense there. So that is the 50 of 50 there, 50 wins in 50 days, looking pretty amazing. And so what have people thought about that? What do the American people think about Trump's success? Well, let's get it. 51% of approved of Trump's first full month. So it's the first 4 weeks, which is pretty amazing there. So that's been very good. And that is tracking like 350 voters per night. 51% there approved of Trump's first month. In terms of his approval rating, the latest polls from Daily Mail and Rasmussen report there. And they have all got, Daily Mail's got -2, but Rasmussen reports here from the 9th of March, which is only like a day old, that's up 3, and Trafalgar is up 5, so doing pretty well there. And of course, you can see overall the RCP average for Trump is a positive job approval there of 0.7%, although that will probably be strained a little bit with some of the tariff negotiations going on and the stock market retrace and crypto retrace there. But other than part of that, it's going pretty well. 45% say that US is heading in the right direction. So that's pretty cool. All the voters think heading in the right direction, according to the new Rasmussen poll. And that was for the week ending the 27th of February. And so that was pretty positive early on. Now, obviously, we're on about the 10th of March now, 10 days later. 2/3 agree, of course, with Trump draining the swamp. And so we're getting a lot of support for the Dodge, pulling that back. So pretty cool. And that was based on national telephone and online survey. 66% of likely voters agree with Trump's statement it's time to drain the swamp in Washington. And that includes 44% who strongly agree. So pretty awesome. Only 25% disagree. Could you believe it? 20, and I bet they're all Democrats and they're all corrupt, right? So they all get paid. So that's pretty awesome stuff going on there. And of course, this is what Trump is really trying to deal with. He's already done within like 50 days about $2 trillion of investment. That's took probably Biden about 4 years to do even 1 trillion. He's done 2 trillion, and of course, he's doing it in the top areas in America, AI, tech, and all the rest of it. This is huge, right? This is huge. And of course, at the moment, we've got a CR continuing resolution going through for the budget to help fund his plans moving forward to make the golden age of America. And I think that's pretty awesome to see that. The US is in trouble, right? So I don't think US as a reserve country can keep going. But you look at the US national debt, $36.6 trillion. That's $107,000 per citizen or $323,000 per taxpayer. That's pretty insane. And of course, the budget deficit is 7 trillion, but the deficit is 2 trillion. So 2 trillion, and you've got to pay for that 2 trillion somewhere. You got to get debt to pay it, right? So it's just a increasing circle there. The actual federal debt to GDP now is 122%. Back in 2000, it was 58%. Back in 1980, it was 34%. So you see how bad it's got there. It's 4 times higher than 1980 as a percentage. So it's pretty bad. Now, Dodge, of course, is doing a great job getting out of all that the fraud and wasted programs, all these Democrat kickback programs probably, and it's 186 billion, probably going to head to $1 trillion. That will half that budget ever to 2 trillion, and that would get to -1 trillion. Obviously, they can do things like grow the economy, and obviously the economy there's about 1.8%. They could probably grow up to 2 trillion, and that would be huge moving forward. And then, of course, they will get the fraud out of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. That will make it last longer too. which are pretty important there. They're also getting rid of, obviously, a lot of the illegals out. That will reduce, fraud that way. And of course, they've got $1 trillion in debt. Now, out of that $1 trillion, out of the $2 trillion that they've got currently at the budget deficit, they can save $1 trillion through Dodge and get down to $1 trillion. They can deal with it with those other mechanisms, cut back other costs, increase revenue through growing the economy, things like that, changing the taxes there. And of course, they will also have $1 trillion. Do you know $1 trillion goes on interest every year? That's crazy. And about 3% of that at least goes to the Chinese. And so it's about 30 billion, 35 billion goes to the Chinese out of that amount, because they've got about 780 billion in government bonds there, treasury bonds in the United States. So Americans are paying China to fund their aircraft carrier. Probably is probably the case there. Pretty crazy. So yeah, that is going to be saved. Pretty big deal there. And yeah, we're going to see that federal tax revenue, if they can grow GDP. Federal tax revenue can grow. At the moment, it's $5 trillion. And they'll be able to grow that too. If they grow that, they'll also be able to grow state revenue. State revenue is at $2.6 trillion, and so they'll be able to grow that as well. Growing the U.S. economy is going to be very big, and of course, Trump is setting that up for the golden age. $2 trillion already going into AI, semiconductors, automobiles, and of course, manufacturing of all kinds. Bringing manufacturing back in the U.S., very big deal there. We're already seeing early signs of that employment growth as well. 10,000 in the first month, so pretty crazy stuff, heading in the right direction. Now, the other thing, of course, we've already seen investment coming into shipbuilding. We're going to see it across probably all transport and logistics, and also infrastructure, actual real spending on infrastructure, unlike the fake infrastructure bill, which is, I guess it's kind of spent some of the, I think it was $2 trillion, was it? I think it's spent like 3/4 or something, dollars. And of course, that hasn't been audited, of course, but hopefully going to bridges and new roads, because America desperately needs upgrading of its infrastructure, and of course that gives a lot of efficiencies and productivities. So that's going to be huge, as well as obviously enjoying the better infrastructure in the United States. So yeah, oil and gas, of course, being a big area of growth as well, building up that asset balance, that balance sheet, and opening up massive oil and gas, LNG, and of course expanding all that too. So huge stuff going on there, and obviously bigger strategies for the golden age of America. Obviously opening up Anwar in Alaska, and really tapping on all the oil and gas reserves up there. Like I say, probably as big as Saudi Arabia potentially, and that could be huge for America. Obviously also looking towards Greenland, huge amount of resources up there, potentially rare earths and other things like that America needs. Take away the monopoly from China, and that's huge too. We know that processes are moving forward there at the moment. And, there's people joke about Canada, the 51st state, but, Alberta's already shown some interest, and several other states as well. So you just never know what happens there with Canada. That's not just for economic growth, but also for resource security and world security as well. Because that's obviously got ship routes and everything else up there, pretty tough territory. And of course, you've got the Arctic opening up as well. And then you've got to compete with the Russians and the Chinese and other groups that are pretty aggressive on the Arctic and Antarctic as well. So we're going to have issues like that down here, no doubt. Also, we've obviously just recently had an armada of Chinese warships come down for the first time, doing live fire around Australia, intimidating Australia, of course, American ally, part of AUKUS, right? And that's a big issue. And what else will they do around minerals down here as well? If they can come around for military, come around for minerals, and they don't have the regulations, right? They can just tap into everything. We have regulations. They can just go and do also. They do illegal shipping down here already, and we're supposed to have frigates get rid of them, but our frigates are kind of scaredy cats. Yeah, big issues there. So lots of things happening in America, and I think you're going to see buildings like you've never seen before, infrastructure like you've never seen before, manufacturing jobs like you've never seen before, high tech age be led by America, and of course you talk about AI and robots and Star Wars systems in space, giving military and nuclear protection as well. So I think every aspect of America is going to gold and boom, and but there's a little bit of pain before the gain. Because Trump's got to fix up some pretty big problems, as you guys can see, US debt being one of them. And of course, at the moment, he wants to move to pretty much a balanced budget. So that means getting these costs out. Dodge is playing a key role in there. It's a bit like a big audit. And if you can get that federal budget down by $1 trillion with the Dodge, and then you can work on revenue and growth, as well as other tax issues there, you can permanent tax cuts he's trying to get put in there as well, you can actually get down to a balanced budget, grow the US economy and income, and make everybody better off at the same time. And that will give you more money to invest in your second year, your third year, 26, 27, in building even bigger capital outlays, and therefore capital outlays that are in highly productive areas. It's going to be pretty fun to see all this play out. So, yeah, the golden age of America is going to come, and Trump is the one to do it. But there's a little bit of pain before we get to a lot of gain there. So that's our coverage now in 5 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed that. The golden age of America is coming, and it's going to be absolutely blow minds, I'm sure. And I posted a little video the other day from Trump saying, hey, America's going to be rich. It's going to be rich. You won't even have so much money, you won't be able to know where to spend it. And you just watch, he said, you just watch. So check out the little clip on the channel there. That's pretty cool. All right, hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell. Discord links in the video description. Only $12.50 to join up at the moment, so get on there. And if you want to join Strategy Club for crypto, that's $35 a month. Really great value. So get in there as well. And look forward to seeing you in Discord. Become a big part of our community. All of you are important, and it'll be great to have you in the chat. And it'll be fun place to be in the year ahead under the golden age of America, as we say. All right, take care, everybody, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.